Hello, everybody. Oh. So today I'm going to be talking about my time in Japan. I've lived here for almost 3 years now, and I've learned so many different things, good and bad. So as someone who has gone through the process of not knowing Japanese, learning Japanese, I would like to start off with one thing. Whenever I came to Japan for the first time, I never knew that failure would be such a big part of my experience here. I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. Everyone knows that there's going to be difficulties. Sometimes you're going to order food and get embarrassed. You're going to get on the wrong train whenever you go out. And then people are going to say Nihongo Jozu to you anytime you say literally anything. But the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from this so far is that I had to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the first time I came to Japan was it was a while ago now. It was in March of 2023. And whenever I came, I was super excited. I was going to study abroad at Sophia University in Tokyo. I was super ready to make friends. I made so many friends there. I lived in an amazing dorm. I was in an amazing environment. And it was perfect. But there was one problem. I spoke zero Japanese. But I really wanted to live in Japan after. And it's kind of hard to live here if you don't speak Japanese. So it was something I needed to accomplish. To do that, I enrolled in an intensive Japanese course at Sophia University. And that course was the hardest course I've done in my life. Every day for 3 hours, we would be in there doing kanji, grammar, vocabulary, getting quizzed on it right after, and it was stressful. There were so many quizzes and tests and speaking practices, which I completely bombed. I had times where the professor would get frustrated with me. I say, "You're not studying at all," even though I was working really hard, but they had no clue. There were so many points where I almost dropped out of the course because I thought I couldn't keep up with everybody there. In the end, I barely passed the course. But it was because I decided that I couldn't give up and I wanted to keep trying. But it really made me question, can I survive here? Can I get a life here in the future? Well, later on, in January 2024, I transferred to TEDx, and I was studying in Tokyo. And in between my time as a study abroad student and as a student at Temple University, I studied a lot back home. And my Japanese improved a little bit. But it wasn't to the point where I was happy at all. And I decided from then that every day I would study for 5 to 6 hours. I was doing reading. I was doing more newspapers. I was watching Netflix. It was my whole life for maybe 3-4 months. And by the end of my first semester, I realized that nothing really changed at all. I didn't improve. And I was really frustrated. I was so annoyed. And I can even remember the feeling now of trying to have a conversation whenever I was buying my first apartment. And they had no idea what I was saying to them. So after that point, I decided the next best thing for me to do is to look for a part-time job in Japan. And there was 2 reasons I wanted a part-time job. The first one, I wanted to get immersified in Japanese language and Japanese culture. But the second one is I had no money. A lot of you guys don't have money either, so you kind of understand how I'm feeling. But the job that I found was a great one. It was in Harajuku and Takeshita Street. And it was a super big touristy area. I was so excited. It was a cafe, super cute. And I was ready. But there was 2 big things I was worried about at this cafe. The first is that I was the only foreigner on staff. There was no other ones. So everyone there was fluent. Their Japanese was perfect, and mine was meh. The second is that everyone that worked there were girls. That was bad because my girlfriend did not like it. Even though that happened, I still decided to start up. And the first week or so went really good. I was talking to everybody fine. They were nice to me. They were patient with me, and it felt completely okay. But as the time that I was there continued, it got a little bit more difficult. Expectations improved. The requirements for me to do certain tasks increased. And it got to a point where I wasn't talking with anybody at all. They didn't trust me, and I didn't really trust them either. And I would go in for 8-hour shifts sometimes, and I wouldn't say a single word to anybody. I would go in, I knew the tasks I had to do, I'd get them done, and I'd go home. But to an extent, I pushed myself there. I would go in, and I wouldn't speak to anybody. I was scared that they wouldn't understand. I didn't want to get a confused face every time I said something. But whenever they spoke to me, I couldn't understand. Imagine that every time you talk to somebody or every time someone speaks to you, it sounds like a adult from Charlie Brown kind of going at you. It was kind of like womp, 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 womp every time they said anything to me. So it was really frustrating. And although Charlie Brown is a fictional thing, for me, all these feelings were really real. I was isolated, and I was frustrated, and I was failing in a way that no one else understood at the time besides me. I felt like a failure completely because I went there to learn how to speak Japanese, but I wasn't doing anything that I went there to accomplish. It was 2 months, and I didn't feel like I'd done anything. And I remember I'd go home every day, and I'd go to my girlfriend, I can't do it anymore, I have to quit. And she would convince me over and over again, you have to stay, you have to get better, it'll be okay. Eventually, after a few more months, it got to a point where I literally couldn't, and I said, I have to quit, I have to stop, and I'm done. And this was probably one of the most humiliating and frustrating experiences of me coming to Japan. I felt like, how could I ever work at a full-time job and live in Japan if I can't even work part-time? And now, I think a bit differently about the situation. Now I understand that at that time, I needed to be there. I was so afraid of failing, and I was so afraid of messing up, that whenever I would make a mistake, I would just move on automatically and act like it never existed. I needed to learn from those mistakes that I was making, and I had to learn from the embarrassment that I was feeling. I was at a bit of a crossroad. It was either I protect my ego, and I keep allowing myself to get beat up by these embarrassments or these poor decisions that I was making, or that I keep pushing forward, and I try to accomplish more. And my whole life, especially, I hated being wrong. I hated getting anything to do with that or feeling like I failed. My mom would always tell me things like, Christian, you can never be wrong. Christian, you always think you're right. And Christian, you're my favorite child. And although I knew that I was her favorite child, I didn't really understand what she was trying to say to me. But now I know more. I know that she was trying to say, Christian, you can be right, but whenever you're wrong, you have to learn from that. It's not that you failed, it's that it was an experience for you to get better. And with that, I also say, whenever I get into interactions with people, whenever I think about me as a whole, I'll think some people might know me as someone who's successful or kind of awesome. Some people might know me as a failure and kind of a loser, but only I know myself for who I am as a whole. I know all the failures, I know how much I've been humiliated, and I know how much I've been frustrated. But I wouldn't take away those negative emotions for anything. They were things I needed to feel. They were things you need to know to do to be able to improve, and it's a hard thing to face. And for me to be able to do that also, I really needed people around me to help enforce that within me. I needed people to support me throughout that whole process. And now for you guys. I know a lot of you have goals. Those goals are probably what brought you to Japan or brought you to TEDxTUJ. And some of them might be big goals, some of them might be little goals, but at the end of the day, you still have something that you're trying to accomplish. Now, you're going to mess up a lot. You're going to make so many mistakes, you're going to be humiliated so many times, and it's going to be insanely frustrating. But it's okay. Go out, be wrong, and make those mistakes. It's like a lot of you might go to the convenience store, and whenever the cashier will say, do you want a bag? You'll say, I'll pay with card. and they kind of give you that weird little look, and you're like, oh! So if you don't want to feel that again, study more Japanese. That's what I did. But it's something you need to improve on. It's a lesson for the future. Now, some of you here might be first-year students. Some of you here might be getting ready to graduate. And some of you here might already be professionals. But what are you going to do the next time that you're faced with a challenge? What are you going to do the next time that you're in a situation that you want something so bad, but it feels so unobtainable to get? Are you going to run away from it? Are you going to work towards it? And with that, you kind of have to face reality a bit. And reality is a scary thing to face. You're looking at the situation you're in, the person you are, the negative parts about you, and also what you can and can't do. And that's a hard thing to admit and a hard thing to accept, especially for me. And to that, just keep going straight. Look at reality, face everything that you have, and don't let what you think can or can't stop you limit you from what you could achieve in the future. It's difficult and it's frustrating and it's humiliating, but it's a part of improvement. Before, like how I said that reality is important. Live your reality. Live your life the way that will make you the happiest. And also, like how I said that it is important to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You also have to learn to be comfortable with yourself. Learn to be comfortable with who you are, and learn to be comfortable that you will make mistakes and that you can make mistakes. Mistakes aren't merely something that is an opposite of achievement. It's a part of the process. Thank you.